Welcome to Exposing Rachel and Benjamin. For the first time today, we're doing this long distance. Rachel is in the US with her family. I'm in Brazil with our dogs. She is here trying to get the podcast as well. Now, the reason why we're separated this Halloween is because Rachel got deported. They did not let her into the country. And so usually it's the other way around, right? It's the Brazilian guy who can make it in the US, but she was actually kicked out of Brazil. We've been visiting here for a while. We got an apartment here because we didn't know how long we're going to stay for. But Rachel, tell us the story. How was it? What happened? It was a lot.
Yeah, so I had to leave the country for a couple weeks. And so when I came back, I didn't think that there were going to be any issues because I've stayed in Brazil for several months, but we had gone to the consulate before and we're like, look, I'm leaving. Is it okay? Like, am I okay to come back? And they're like, yeah, as long as you come back, starting from the time that you come in the country again, you have 30 days to apply to become a permanent resident, but you should be fine. And I'm like, do I need like any paperwork or anything to show them? And they're like, oh no, like you're just going to come in, you're going to tell them, they'll see that you've just come in right now and they'll let you in. No problem. So I'm like, cool, awesome. So I come back and I'm flying. I had so many flights. My entire travel time was like 36 hours. So like a day and a half just all on planes traveling. And I wait through immigration for like 2 hours in line, and I get up to the gate and, give my passport. He's like, I can't let you in. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, yes, you can. He's like, well, you've already been here past your visa. I was like, well, no, that's fine because I'm coming back starting today. It starts over again because I left the country, then I came back. So it starts over. And he's like, no, it doesn't work like that. Like the amount of time you've been there is the amount of time you've been there. I'm like, but they told me at the consulate I could come back. He's like, I don't know who told you that, but they're stupid because you can't come back in. And then I was like, well, can I talk to somebody else? Because this guy looked a little young. And I was like, okay, maybe he just doesn't know what he's talking about. So I'm like, can we talk to somebody else? And he's like, sure. Takes me over to this guy who's like the biggest douchebag on the planet. Like awful. He like looks at my passport. He's like, why is there no travel documentation? Like, it's a new passport. He's like, I don't believe that story that it's a new passport. I'm like, what do you mean? Look at it. It's like I just got it. He's like what? I'm like trying to fake a passport or like that it was like a fake passport or like he
That's the
couldn't
hard
see.
thing with immigration, right? Because they're always kind of assholes and it's kind of their job. I feel like if you're too empathetic, you should not be in immigration, right? Because you probably
Yeah,
won't follow the rules, so it's kind of hard.
but here's what was so stupid. You were literally out on the other side. Like I was 20 feet from you. And I was like, look, if I can't come in, fine, it is what it is. But like, can I see my husband? He's like, no. And I'm like, he's literally right at baggage claim. It's like, no, you can talk to him when you go back to where I came from. And he's like, no, yeah, you can't talk to him. You can't even use your cell phone here. And so he's like, quit texting. Like he could see that I was texting you, being like, they're not letting me in. He's like, don't use your phone.
Oh
And
my
so
God.
I was crying. And he's like, your tears don't move me. And I was like, I'm not crying for you.
And
I'm
that's all
like,
in Portuguese, right? He didn't speak English.
no, it was all in Portuguese. Like I'm trying to
Maybe he
explain everything.
speaks Portuguese, because can you imagine if he couldn't speak it at all?
Well, that's the thing is I was like, let me get my husband here. He can explain. His Portuguese is way better than mine. He's literally right there. He's like, no, I don't care about your bad Portuguese. You can't come in here. And then they wouldn't even let you take my bag. I was like, well, I don't want to travel with a check bag again. So I'm like, well, can he just at least pick up my suitcase? I shouldn't have even told them. I should have just texted you and been like, grab my bag. Because they're like, no, you're going back with all of your luggage. So
Hmm.
like it was just
Oh, which is
so
good because you didn't want to spend months without your clothes, like that wouldn't have helped the situation. But
yeah, but the are not really everyday wearing clothes, they were for like something else. So it
yeah,
was like kind of a waste, but I'm really sad because it's been 2 months now that I haven't been able to see you in person. I'm waiting for
has it
my
been
visa.
so long? It
Well,
has
it
been
has.
months. Oh
I
yeah,
I back about a month ago just back home, and then I was gone for the other thing for a
You're
while.
gone for like 2 weeks for work, right?
Yeah, but I came home. Do you remember I came home like around my birthday just here, and then it was 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah, we were separated for our birthdays already, September 13th, 12th, 13th.
Yeah, so it's been like about 2 months since I've seen you, pretty much. So I miss it's awful. Like I love being here and being with my family, of course. Like I love them and it's so good to see them, but it wasn't planned, you know? So it's
Yeah,
like it's I think the longest we've been apart from each other. Like you traveled for like a week or so when you
max,
had,
right? I think the max has been like a week and a half, maybe.
yeah, like maybe 10 days or so.
Never
You've,
more than that.
yeah, but like never more than 10 days. And it's been like
Well, it's funny
six.
because I had not issues with immigration, right? But I was always locked up in the little airport room because I had too many visas, right? So I first got a student visa. So when I was like 17, I applied to go to college in the US, got accepted, applied for a student visa, and then I applied for a tourism visa, and then I applied for a religious visa. And so I think, and then we got married. So
And then it's like the visa.
I think I got locked up because every time I traveled, what I mean when got locked up is that they would put me in a little room and I'd stay there for like 2, 3 hours just so that they would interview me and ask me questions about my passport, my stuff.
Yeah.
Now that's very common in the US, right? Like foreigners in the US, they kind of go through a lot. But Brazil, we never thought that you would ever have troubles with immigration here, like being literally sent back. That's
Yeah,
odd.
that's the thing. I'm like, I'm not trying to like mooch off of your country. Like, I have a job in the US. Like, I'm here, like, we have our own apartment, but I wasn't trying to say that. I was like, we're just visiting family. Like, my mother-in-law is sick. We're helping her recover. Like, I'm not trying to live here. I'm literally just like here because it's a family emergency for my mother-in-law and like here, like trying to make it, sound because it's true, but trying to help them understand like I'm not just hanging out here. Like I'm
Hey,
here.
yeah, like stay long term, right? Like you have other things in the US.
But luckily, you were able because I was like, well, what kind of visa am I going to come back on? I was looking through all the visas, and you were like, oh, like the family reunion visa. Like if you guys get separated, you're able to do the family reunion, which is like a placeholder until you get your permanent residency.
Mhm.
So good because immediately, as soon as I got home, like I applied to that, and it's a very lengthy process. Like I had to do fingerprinting, like biometrics, to get an FBI background check, like official FBI. Like
Didn't you
Brazil
have to
asked,
go to the police? You had to go to
yeah,
police in there, right?
oh, have them scan my fingerprints like I'm a criminal, right? To get like just to show that I don't have anything on my record.
Oh,
I have,
speaking of criminal though, didn't they take you inside the airplane and out?
yeah,
Tell us about that because she was crying. Hey, you gotta tell us about Mexico as well. Like one of your connections was in Mexico, right? And so tell us about that whole thing, like the security and then all the crazy stuff that happened in.
as soon as I am like sent back on the plane to go to the different country that I was in. Um, so they put me on the plane, but they didn't just like let me, walk back on the plane. They literally like had two immigration officers in these like big police outfits, like walk me to the plane, go to the stewardess, give them my passport. Like I couldn't even hold my passport. They're like, she couldn't come in the country, so you need to hold her passport. And when she deboards, take her to immigration there. And like treated me like a criminal. And so like the people, and I was like trying to hold it in because I'm trying to be brave, right? Like, and I can't help it because like the tears are coming out and I'm like, oh, don't be like a sad bitch. Like you're gonna if you're crying. So I'm trying so hard to be like chill and calm and collected, but like I can't help it. Like I'm super stressed and upset. And so the people on the plane, I think, are just like, what the fuck? Because it just looked weird, because at that point, everyone had already boarded. Like the plane came in and then they were going right back. So they literally had to hold the plane for me, say, we got this bitch who got kicked out of the country. She's coming back on this plane. literally a 13-hour flight I just gotten off of.
Flight had already left or like closed up.
No, yeah, they had to
Oh, that
literally,
sucks because whenever that happens, it delays
they're,
everybody, and they know there's a somebody who's at fault. Like
yeah,
we're
it's me.
late. Why are we all gonna be late for this person?
So literally, like, I go to the very back of the plane being escorted on. I'm like, this isn't necessary. Like, do I look like a criminal to you? Like, it was
Uh,
just communication about a visa, but like, I'm getting back on the plane. I didn't cause any ruckus. I was like, okay, I understand. I'm like, I can't be that person. So I'm like, okay, I get it. I understand. I'll solve it when I get back to the other country. No worries. And they were treating me like a criminal. And then when I got off the plane, they literally had immigration waiting for me to take me off the plane, to take my passport, take me then to their other little immigration cell to question me. They're like, what's going on? I'm like, there was just a miscommunication about the visa. I was told I went to the consulate. They told me I could come back in. They said I didn't need paperwork, blah, blah, blah. And they were just treating me like, I don't know, like I'm a terrorist or something. I was like, I do I look like a terrorist? Maybe right now, but I'm like, do I look like a threat to anybody? Like in my little pink luggage and my pink outfit. I'm like, I just is a miscommunication about a visa. I didn't understand that I had to get a different visa to come back. So I just was like crying because I just felt like it was so embarrassing. It was like the most embarrassing.
and then tell
Like
us what happened in the taxi.
that's another nightmare. So I get there. You got to quit saying that country. Um, because I don't know why. I just they said I can't say anything about where I was. So I get to that other country, and it's just like a terrible annoyance because luckily they're speaking Portuguese there. And the taxi driver that I get into, it's not even, I was like, okay, well, I should just get an Uber. Oh, but my SIM card, this is why. This is why. So my SIM card didn't work, right? Because I have my phone SIM card for Brazil because we were in Brazil. And then where I was going, I couldn't have my phone. And so I don't have a SIM card. I don't have internet. It's like I have a brick. It's like I have no phone. So I'm like, okay, I can't do Uber. I'm just gonna walk to a hotel across the
The
street from.
Wi-Fi at the airport wasn't working, right?
Yeah, the Wi-Fi at the airport was terrible. Like I kept trying to call you, it was cutting out. Like I think either there was just too many people using it or the internet kept going in and out. But like I could never get a strong enough signal to like all I could do is take a quick screenshot of like a map in the hotel. And I was like, okay, it's like a mile away. It was like I think like a mile walking. And I was like, okay, like I can just walk for a while, like a mile. It's not a big deal. So I was looking at the map, but the map, because it wasn't like loading, I couldn't really see what kind of streets I was on. I could just see like, the blue line and other streets. And I was like, okay, seems pretty straightforward. So I start walking. Number one, my wheel falls off my massive luggage. So
Uh,
like wheel falls off. There's a hole in my luggage. So now I can't even roll my suitcase. I'm like dragging it. So I'm dragging the suitcase with another suitcase and a backpack. So I'm dragging all this
It's
stuff.
backpack, right? Because you're trying to like put a lot of stuff in a backpack when we're traveling.
Yeah, so it's like a backpack that's basically a suitcase, another
Mm.
suitcase, and a massive checked bag. So I'm dragging all of this with me. The wheel falls off. Then I'm just frustrated because it's heavy. And then after walking for like 15 minutes, I realized that I have to cross the interstate. And I was like, I cannot cross the interstate with all of this. Like, number one, it wasn't like a super nice area to begin with. And I was like, already I look ridiculous and I look like a threat. Not like a threat, but like I look like I'm easy prey.
Wonderful. Yeah.
So, like, I'm the most vulnerable, stupid bitch on the planet right now. And
Yeah.
there's,
You're not even run and somebody comes after you because you have too much
yeah.
stuff you're carrying.
And I was, no, this isn't good. So I start, like, I literally am like, I'm just like, I can't break down. I can't break down yet. So I'm like, okay, fit in. I'm just gonna walk back toward the area of the airport, and I don't know. I'll use the airport phone and like maybe try to call like a taxi or something. Luckily, well, not luckily because this was actually pretty stupid looking back on it, but I was kind of desperate. As I'm walking back to the airport, there's a guy who is like kind of in an area where, as I was coming out of the airport, I saw this guy asking if people needed rides.
Mm.
And initially, because I was like, no, I'm just going to walk. But then I see him again, and so I'm like, okay, like I think he is legit because I did already see him at the airport, and now again he's like, "Do you need a ride?" And I'm like,
But it was
yeah,
a taxi. It wasn't like an official taxi.
no, it wasn't like an official taxi guy. It was just like, those people who
Dangerous
since
because Uber.
Uber's taken over everything, and so they're trying to like official taxis don't really work anymore. So he might have been a taxi driver in the past, but now he's just kind of like doing his own thing. Which I don't understand. Like, just do Uber then. Like, if you don't. But anyway, I was like, and it's probably for, that I'm about to tell you is why he can't do Uber, right? And I'm like, well, how much is it going to be? And he literally told me it was going to be like 20 American dollars. And I'm like,
It was very
kind
close. It was like 7 minutes away, right? Not
and
even.
but even so, listen, I'm like, okay, 20 US dollars, that's like pretty ridiculous. But I am desperate and I happen to have the
Well, how is
cash.
that ridiculous? 10, $20.
The price, because the hotel was so close, I was like 20 US
It was
dollars.
7 minutes walk. No, it was like 30 minutes walking. So it was
No,
like 5 minutes by car.
like 5 minutes by car, which would have been maybe $10 max. And I was like, okay, he probably is like swindling me, whatever. $20, fine, I'll take it. To get home, it's worth it. I'll do it. I have the cash. I'll just do $20. Um, and so then I get in the taxi. What?
$20 probably the minimum you pay for anything, right? 15, $20 for yeah, but I get it, it's
Not
close.
in not in dollars, because I was in
Yeah,
a different
yeah.
right. This was like, like it was like 130 euros, he was saying. So I'm like 130
I mean,
something
the
euros.
difference is not that big. It's like if it was $20, it would have been
Oh,
like 25 euros.
okay, so maybe it was like 35 euros. Anyway, I did the math.
Yeah, it was a
I'm like,
lot.
what? So then I get there, and the hotel is in a very bad part of town. Like, I'm in the car, I'm trying to talk to him. He's a little weird, but I think most people are kind of weird. So I'm like, it's not a big deal, but the hotel is not, it didn't look like the pictures, basically. Like the hotel itself, it was a Holiday Inn. I was like, the hotel itself, nice hotel. But where it was like in the middle of the ghetto, like the favela. Like I was like, thank God I didn't even try to walk here because I would have been
Go to
kidnapped.
Macon.
I would have made it because like the hotels, the website, pristine, didn't show anything of the outside. So
Yeah.
I'm like really nervous. And then I get there and then he's like, tries to charge me like, uh, we get there and he's like, okay, it's like 240 euros. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? He's like, well, it actually was further than I thought it was going to be. So it's going to be like 240 euros. And I was like, but I was like, okay, I'm in the ghetto. I'm vulnerable. This is ridiculous. But I'm like, I don't really have an option. So I'm like, okay, like he's scamming me. What can I do?
And that's why they do it, right? Because
You're
anybody
desperate.
would just put a credit card on and like just get it done and move on, right? Because you don't have an option.
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
it's
and I,
probably a blessing that your credit card didn't work internationally, right?
well, listen, so that's the thing. But I was like, okay, you have to keep in mind, I was like exhausted. I'd been flying at that point for about 50 hours traveling.
It's crazy.
50 hours
Airports
traveling,
are so tiring because they really exhaust you, you know.
exhausted.
Waiting, waiting,
Walked
waiting.
a half mile with all my broken luggage. I realized I'm in the ghetto. I'm just exhausted. I'm vulnerable. I'm scared. I'm like missing you so badly and just so stressed out and being like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to go back. So all of it accumulated. And I was just like, fine, okay, like take my credit card. And he's like, I only take cash. I was like, I don't, I don't have the cash. Like, I have $250 of, it was like, would have been like $300. I was like, I don't have that in cash. And he's like, well, I'll drive you to an ATM. And I was like, no. I was like, I'm so sorry. Cause at that point we were like in the parking lot of the Holiday Inn. I was like, look,
Yeah.
I'm I will go inside this ATM here at the Holiday Inn, but I'm not going anywhere else with you. And he was getting really mad at me. He's like, you're gonna try to take my, we're gonna, and I was like, no, I'm so sorry, but I
Yeah, you're
feel,
definitely scamming people because who doesn't take credit cards? Like, how can you charge people without credit cards nowadays? So it
yeah,
probably does it so people don't do a chargeback and take their
that
money back, you know?
they do it because like they can't track you. Like, what if he tried to kidnap me and like, oh, the card would have been traced to his account. So they work in cash so they can be sketchy and
Mhm.
not need ties back to anything, which is probably why they don't do Uber looking back. So probably why you should not trust people who aren't doing that. But I was like,
Oh
look,
yeah.
car, and he like wasn't giving me my luggage. And he's like, well, I'm not getting your luggage out of the car
Oh
until
my
you pay.
gosh.
And at that point, I'm like, I'm gonna go inside the Holiday Inn, sir. And this is like in my broken language trying to communicate. But I'm like, I'm gonna go inside. There's an ATM inside. I'm gonna go inside. I'll get it from inside the safe building and I will come back and I will give it to you. He's like, I will not give you your luggage until you bring me my money.
Oh
And I
my
was like,
gosh.
fine, 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 fine. And in my head, I'm like, if he doesn't give it to me, I mean, it's a ton of super nice shit. But
It's very
like,
expensive. It's all custom made
yeah,
clothes. So
in my head, I'm like, well,
yeah.
part of me is thinking like, yeah, but like if I ditch him, I don't get my stuff and he knows where I am and he'll come kill me. So I go into the ATM.
Oh gosh. And they had one?
They had one, but if
Hmm.
it number one, all I had was my credit card. I only had my American Express because we don't really use our debit account. Like I use my American Express for everything. So I try to use it and it doesn't let me. And then I try to they had a different machine that was like kind of a cash advance machine that looked really sketchy. I was like, oh gosh, I'm going to call and cancel my card after this, but let me just try to use it for right now. Try to cash advance and it's not working. And it's probably because it thinks it's fraudulent, but I cannot call them because I don't have a working phone.
And your phone
And
was dying too, wasn't it?
I didn't even have like my charger with me.
Your
And
phone was dying.
I didn't even have a charger that worked for that country. So I'm like, this is a
Didn't
different issue.
charge in the airplane either because they didn't have a charger in
Didn't
the airplane.
I'm going to tell people to never fly this airline again. What was the name? I think it was just Portugal Air. It was the absolute worst. I've been on some shitty planes to have a 13-hour flight with no TV, no charging, no anything. That's criminal, you
Yeah.
know? And
Well,
I
it's
spent
probably water and food, right? Was probably shitty.
it
That's
was
a
terrible.
lot too.
It was dog food. Anywho, so then I'm like, I didn't know what to do. And I was like, I don't have money. I can't pay this guy. I have no cash. He keeps saying he doesn't have a card. I'm like, okay. And then I was messaging you. I told the guy, I'm like, okay, do you have PayPal? I was like, we can do Facebook transfer. We can do PayPal. He's like, no, 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 no. I only want cash. I only want cash. And I was like, I don't have cash. Like, what? I don't know what you want me to do. And then finally, because I just started crying and I was like, look, the only way I can pay you is it's got to be some kind of transfer. I don't have cash. I don't understand what part of this you don't understand. I'm going to have to transfer you something. And
Mhm.
so he makes this big hullabaloo, is yelling at me. And even like the like a hotel lobby people, they feel bad for me. Like one of the guys comes over and is like trying to explain to the guy, like, yeah, like you can't get cash. Like I tried to ask them, I'm like, can I pay like for a room with my card and like just get cash for me? I was trying to figure anything out. And they're like, I'm like, can I get a gift card? And they're like, no. So the guy is like, dude, you can just get PayPal or Facebook or Zelle. He's like, let me show you. And the guy's like, no, 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 no.
Have that. Yeah, like that's such a weird thing. He's definitely a scammer, you know?
It was so scammy. So finally, he was like, I'll let you make a bank transfer directly to my bank. And I was like, amazing, fantastic. But I was like, but it's gonna have to be through my husband's card because I don't have our bank card. If it's gonna be bank to bank transfer, I can't do it with this card. It's gonna have to be through his card. He's like, we'll call him right now. And like at that point, my phone like died. Like it was literally dead. I was showing him. I'm like, literally, my phone is.
Us.
I'm like, money. This is what you will have to do. you are going to, I was like, I got a piece of paper and wrote it down. I said, write down the name of your bank. I need your account number and your routing number, and I will wire this to you. And I was like, my husband will wire this to you immediately. It might take a day or two to show up in your account, but I will get this wired to you immediately. And
Mm.
he's like, if you were lying to me, this is going to be so bad. I was like, no, 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 no. Like, I promise, I promise. Like, it's gonna. And so, anyway, he gives me my bags. I'm able to just go up to my room. And then I just called you and I was like sobbing, if you
You
remember.
don't know.
I did because,
You're,
and you were like,
you're holding
you
back, right, for a while, so.
can't do this in public. I'm like, I'm not in public. But I was sobbing. I was, it was like a horrendous experience. So anyway, I
So,
get there and I tell you, and like, I actually, for a good little bit, was trying to figure out how to do the wire transfer. But like, because it was an international bank, there was just something that like they were saying, like, because at that point I was able to get Wi-Fi. I was messaging like our bank, like, hey, this is the thing. How do I do it? And they're like, we don't do that because it's a small bit. We still have the one from Utah,
mm,
so you don't do that. Like, you're gonna have to do a different transfer, a different bank or something.
mm-hmm.
Well, fuck this guy because he scammed me, number one.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
he literally was scamming me. He was threatening me, doing all this stuff. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck him.
And
Like,
did you have like, I only had, because we don't carry cash, I had like $20 in
I
my,
yeah, that's what I forgot. I was like, okay, in the meantime, I had like 30 US dollars.
which is
I
like the real price of a 5-minute ride, right?
Which is the price it was more than what he had quoted me for. So
Mhm.
I forgot. I was like, in the meantime, here's the amount you actually quoted me for, by the way. Here's the $30. I will get the rest to you, but hold on to this. There's extra in there because you're being patient, which I was just like BSing to pretend I was very grateful so that he wouldn't be suspicious. But I
Yeah.
was like, thank you. Here's extra even, which I was like, "Meh, meh, meh, meh. I promise I'm gonna do tonight." So like in my heart, I was like, I paid him honestly what he needed to be paid,
Hey,
what
but
he had.
what was the real amount that he charged? Because there's no way he went from $30 to 200.
No, he did. I got there and he's like, it's gonna be 250. And I thought it was like a miscommunication. And I was like, 25? He's like 250. He was like, 250. And I
Oh,
was like,
gosh.
25, 250.
Well, lesson learned, right? We only do Uber or real taxi drivers. You don't do strangers in the street.
25 mais zero. He's like, thanks. And I just keep, and I said, like, I was like, você disse que 20 e 50 por isso? Like, you said 25 for this. He was like, sim, mas era mais longe do que eu pensando. Something like this.
Nossa, que absurdo.
E I was like, é muito perto. I was like, senhor, é muito perto daqui. Era 5 minutinhos. Ah, mas essa área é perigoso. Eu não ia pra aqui. So I was like, so you're charging because it's more dangerous or what? Like, he was just like saying nonsense because he
Yeah,
knew
because there's no way to make sense of that, you know? So of
he just
course it's being nonsense because it's ridiculous, right? There's no justification for a 10x price because of whatever reason.
yeah. So anyway,
Aren't you
I
happy that's gone now? That's past.
well no, I sent him, I said, I just talked to my husband. They said they approved it. It's going to be there in 24 hours. I will message you in the morning with the confirmation. And he was bothering me all night. And as soon as and then
What do you
luckily
mean? What do you mean bothering you all night?
on WhatsApp, because I gave him my WhatsApp, because that was the only way to communicate. And I was like, look, here's my WhatsApp, like, message me, which I didn't want to do, but I was like, there's no way I can't give him my confirmation. So
Good
I was like,
you had your, or not, but you had your US number on WhatsApp, right?
yeah,
'Cause mine, for some reason, still has my US number. It's not
I,
connected with you.
I didn't even know my Brazilian number.
Yeah,
So
like
it
you
was,
wouldn't know. I don't either.
anywho, he was messaging me all night, like, send a confirmation, send a confirmation. I was like, I will, I promise I'm here. He just did it. They're sending it. Like, I'll have the confirmation number for you, blah, blah. Luckily, the Holiday Inn had a shuttle. You still have to pay for it. It's a little savage. It's like I mean, it's like $5, but it's kind of rude. Like, so I paid shuttle and it was like so early in the morning. I only slept a couple hours because it was like what at like a nine. And
Mm.
that's why I was freaking out because it was like nighttime and it was dark. I was scared. So anywho, we get there. So I take the shuttle from the hotel and I'm like, okay, a safe shuttle. I get to the hotel or the airport. Once I'm at the airport, I immediately block that guy. I like delete, I block it. I'm like, fuck that guy. I hope you never find me. He has my WhatsApp. But hopefully when you block somebody, it's like your stuff disappears from their end. I don't know how that works. I think he can probably still see that he's been blocked. I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
And
Oh well, either way, you never see him again. And yeah, even if he needs to be afraid because he's the scammer, not you. And so
I was scared for my life that whole night. I was like, because the location was good. I was like, this guy's gonna come back and kill me.
is
Or
there
like,
was that like the worst 2 days of your life, or has there been any worse
I
day
had
you remember?
more in my life. Like those 2 days of my life. No, it was 3 days. But you know what? Like the other
The
day though,
going was fine, right? You're just excited to get home.
yeah, I was just excited to get home. But those 2 days traveling from Brazil to the country, to that country, back to the US,
Yeah.
so beaten down and sad and exhausted. It was like the worst. It was the worst 2 days of my entire life, like
But
the worst days of my life. And so I got back home. Luckily, my family was like, yeah, just, of course, just come stay with us here. So I've been here, but I miss you so much. Like, it's a weird dynamic always being back home. And I love my family, but it's the first time I've been here without you being here with me.
it's
So,
quite good for them, right? They can say what they really want to say.
well, they don't say anything because
But I
I love
feel
you.
like it's a good opportunity for families.
Regardless of whether or not they like your hair, they love you. So nobody is saying anything bad about you. Um,
It's a good
and I would never
opportunity for, yeah, because
from the
we've
beginning.
been together for 7 years now, right? So our families
And
have never had ourselves like separate from each other.
yeah, well, in 7 years, they've never said one thing to me about you because they know, like, if they ever said, oh, because I remember when we were just engaged and my dad was asking me, like, are you sure he doesn't just want you for a green card or all this stuff? And I was like, just so you know, if you
Jokes
ever
on
say,
him. You and me for a CPF, the Brazilian green card. You're
right,
the one applying now. Now that I got my green card, you're the one actually is
now I'm the
applying to be a resident here. So it's fine. It's funny because we never thought we would live in Brazil for any longer than a few months, right?
my husband, if you ever say anything negative about Tiago that's not elicited, I'm like, if he's an asshole to you, that's different because I knew you'd never be. But I'm like, unelicited, anything you ever say like that, like we won't have a relationship if you ever say anything bad about my husband. So they never have.
There we go. It
And they
worked.
left. Now I
Well,
need your citizenship. Like I just send your CPF and your info and your all this stuff. And now I'm just waiting now. So the last thing I'm waiting for to be able to send everything off is um
didn't you
I'm
get
waiting.
your documentation wet? Did you have to do it again?
Yeah, so I sent it in the first time and they sent it back because they said I had the wrong amount for the check. Like I had to get a cashier's check, which is a long process in and of itself.
Yeah, those.
They want me to send my passport, which I don't like. Like I sent a copy of my passport, but I was like, I don't want to like mail my passport. Like it just seems kind of dangerous. But they sent it back. They're like, you have to send your passport and our official copy of our marriage certificate. They wouldn't even take the copy. I'm like, it's the exact same.
Yeah, that's
But I Utah, Utah sending it to me. It should be here tomorrow.
all
Um,
right.
on an official licensed. I'm like, okay, like whatever. So at this point, once I send it all back, I should be good to go because they said everything else is fine. It's just this, this, and this you gotta send back. So they
Uh,
were fairly quick. Actually, that's a lie. They weren't all that quick, but we'll see.
Well, they said that in the website it says 4 to 6 weeks, and they got it back to you probably within 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, within 2 weeks. I'm lucky, I think.
It's just
Like,
that there was
like,
stuff missing or like, documentations, right? So it's kind of annoying.
well,
But
it's like
worst,
the reunion visa is not as difficult to get as other visas. Like, it's pretty straightforward. It's like if you have a family member or a spouse in Brazil, you can stay with them. Like, it's not that it like people get really denied for it. So I think it's kind of a lucky visa.
yeah, it is. Well, that's our story there. That's your story, how it all went down. I can't wait to have you back here and we'll keep, at least we can talk a lot now, right? Like we can see each other over the phone every day.
Yeah, before when I could only talk to you like those 2 times, like that was so hard.
Yeah,
But
like something for work, right? She couldn't really talk, so that was harder. But by the way, the reason why we're dressed like this is that it's Halloween and I have a song called Hunt Your Dreams, meaning you gotta go for it, you know? There's those big dreams and goals in life, and you just gotta hunt them down, make sure that they don't escape. And that's why we're dressed like this. Rich did not want to dress like Chucky's wife.
wanting to do this before he was a redhead. Like since we got married, he's like, let's do Chucky. I'm like,
Really?
no.
I don't remember that.
You literally like since we've gotten married, you've been wanting to do Chucky and his bride.
Oh, it's funny because
Which
I don't even know. Did we watch the movie together? I think we tried and I slept because it was kind of boring. We
I
tried watching it recently because of my song, because I make some mentions to Chucky in the song called On Your Dreams. There's like his voice and the looks, of course. Uh, I think we tried watching and I fell asleep because it was kind of boring.
honestly,
But he's just very charismatic and funny, so I think it was fun. I was actually looking at my old photos, so when I just dyed my hair red. My first Instagram post is a carousel, and like the third photo is Chucky.
it's so
It's
funny.
because the first time I did it, it was so bright red that I looked like a clown. I still kind of do, but I like it. But it was like super bright, and so I just put Chucky in there. But here you go. We are Chucky and his wife. We're gonna make some content long distance for the first time. But yeah, check that out on banger.com/music. Follow me on Spotify. Go listen to the music and remember your goals. And so. You're not wearing your wig today, huh? You're wearing somebody else's because you don't have
Um,
last.
else is not
Yours is
mine.
better though, I will say.
I say mine's better than this. This is really cheap and really stringy. My wig looks a lot cuter, but it doesn't come with the bangs. And I
Yeah, yours is a
bangs.
lot thicker than that, huh? That's kind of.
My blonde rosette hairpiece is way better than this. It's just like I had no other option because I'm not really a blonde, so I had to get the one with like the dark roots like Tiffany. So,
Yeah, you
but
look good though.
not bad. I just would never buy something like that. So if you are an actual blonde or a brunette or have black hair, then go to rosette.co because you can get an actual huge, voluminous, thick one instead of this tiny, limpy, sad one.
Yeah, yours is like 4 times more hair than that, huh?
Yeah, it's like very big. It's like 300% density, but
There you go. Well, that's our podcast there. Subscribe for more. Let us know in the comments your questions, and we will talk next time. Stay crazy, going for those big goals and dreams. Bye.
see ya.